What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Bandana Podcast. Today, I wanted to make this episode to help some of you guys out. I took a poll on my Instagram story the other day, and I asked on there, if you were to delete a period tracking app, would you know how to properly track your cycle? Many of you said no. I got 18 responses and only 2 of them were yes, which means 16 out of 18 were no. So, yeah, that's what this episode's going to be about. But I really just wanted to make this episode so you guys can know how to do it properly and know what everything means. So, let's get into that. Alright, I guess I should start off this episode with a disclaimer. If you are intending on using cycle tracking and cycle planning as a method of birth control, it only works effectively if you have regular cycles, because that way you can more accurately track when you are ovulating and when you are going to menstruate. So if you're trying to not get pregnant, or if you're doing the opposite and trying to get pregnant, cycle planning alone only really works if you have regular cycles. And what I mean by that is if you have cycles that are consistently 27 days long, or if cycles are 30 days long, again, consistently, as long as those cycles are consistent, then this is an effective way to track your cycle and track your ovulation as birth control. On that note, I feel like there's a good chunk of people that confuse what I mean by cycle. When you say cycle, it usually refers to the amount of time between the first day of your period up to your next period, the next month or so. I'm not really sure how to incorporate this into my YouTube videos on my podcast channel, but I can narrate it to you so my visual learners can have something to go off of. Actually, you know what? I'll make a little graphic on Canva or something, and I'll put that in an Instagram post when I announce the release of this episode. So get yourself something to draw on. Let's talk about how the cycle works. So I'm going to just use a 28-day cycle as an example. So draw yourself a little calendar, or if you don't really want to use a calendar method, just draw yourself a grid with 7 columns and 4 rows. Just however you do it, you should end up with 28 little squares or 28 little spaces. These 28 little squares will represent the cycle. Okay, one last step before we go on. Get yourself 2 different types of pens, preferably pens of different colors. We are going to be using those pens to allocate and visualize the cycle. So get one pen and allocate that as your period pen, if you will, and use that pen to mark off the first 5 days in the cycle as a period, or 7. It usually ranges from about 5 to 7. Well, actually, I shouldn't say that. The average period is about 5 to 7 days long. So pick your number of days and fill that out. The next color pen will be your fertile window. Before we fill out the fertile window on the calendar, let me just explain how it works. So when you ovulate, the egg is viable for up to 48 hours or 2 days. So that's already 2 days in your fertile window. Another pertinent part of cycle planning and cycle tracking as birth control is the viability of sperm cells. I want to point out that sperm cells are viable for up to 5 days, which is crazy, and I don't know how, considering the environment of the vagina. But if you have penetrative sex, or if sperm cells access your vagina somehow, they are going to be viable for up to 5 days. So with that in mind, your fertile window is about 7 weeks long. There's 5 days of viability for the sperm and 2 days of viability for an egg cell. And the way your fertile window is calculated is by estimating your ovulation time. Ovulation usually takes place around the 14th day of your cycle or about halfway through your cycle. And in this case, with 28 days in the cycle, it's around day 14. So take your other pen and make a star on day 14. I don't know how you've organized your calendar, but put a star on day 14. And then put, I don't know what shape you want to use, but draw a line or draw circles on the 5 days leading up to day 14. So on around day 9, start your little sequence of whatever shape, and then about 2 days after day 14, so 15 and 16, use the same shape. This little sequence of shapes with your one star at the end of it represents your fertile window. Every person is different, everybody's body is different, so not everybody's ovulation will occur at the 14-day mark or at the halfway point. It really depends on their body and their cycle. So if you really want to be sure if you are ovulating, I just learned that there are at-home ovulation test kits that you can buy at the store. They work just like a pregnancy test where you pee on a stick and it will tell you positive or negative depending on if you are ovulating or not. It works in a similar way to regular pregnancy tests in that it detects your urine for a specific hormone, not HCG like in pregnancy tests, but it detects for other hormones. I'm not sure what they are exactly, but they detect for hormones and they test positive or negative like a pregnancy test. If you are attempting to track your cycle at home without a period tracking app, using these ovulation test kits can be helpful in determining when you are ovulating exactly, so that way you can time out your future cycles and plan your fertile windows. Also, on the topic of ovulation test kits at home, I know Clear Blue is a popular brand that people use to test for pregnancy because it just gives you a direct answer. I know Clear Blue also has ovulation test kits that you can do at home, so if you are worried about getting a wrong result or interpreting the results wrong on like a regular paper pregnancy test, you can buy Clear Blue ovulation tests, and those will give you a direct answer as well. Now, let's go back to the calendar. You may see that there is a remaining almost 2 weeks of just blank space at the end of the calendar. So this should be days 20 through 28. Those should be empty. And that means that these days are safe to have sex if that's what you are planning. And that means that you have a lower chance of getting pregnant. It doesn't mean you have a 0% chance of getting pregnant, but it is significantly lower. Like I said in the disclaimer, cycle planning is effective if you do have regular cycles, but in order to make this even more effective, you can use it with another form of birth control, such as condoms or hormonal pills, and this will definitely increase your likelihood of not getting pregnant. And that, guys, gals, and non-binary pals, is how you track your cycle. I really wanted to make this episode so you guys can learn how to do it properly in the case that you are needing to rely on some sort of birth control that isn't like something that you are given. So, yeah, that's something you can do if you want to. And with that being said, I hope you stay happy and healthy, and I will see you next time.